Hi, I'm Natasha,
And I'm Cassandra.
and this is the inaugural Strange Sisters video podcast. This is very scary for both of us. We're definitely not video people, but we're going to give this a shot and just hop on that YouTube bandwagon. So the video will obviously be put on our YouTube, and then we'll also just do our, regular podcasts on Apple and Spotify and all those things.
So be nice to us because it's our first time.
Yes, and we're not used to being on video, so hopefully we don't do anything weird. We will try our best, but we are genuinely just weird people, so I think more of that is going to come out in the video.
Yeah, for sure.
You can edit a lot out in just audio, but video tells the whole story. So
Yeah.
we'll try not to be too weird. And this week we're going to be talking about some cryptids in the Appalachian Mountains. There's definitely a lot of cryptids that live in the Appalachian Mountains, so this will probably be our first podcast of 2 or 3 that talk about these. Yeah, at least, yeah. That talk about all the cool different cryptids that live there, out there. And so we're going to start with Bigfoot, which is obviously well known. And there's a lot of sightings of Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, but there's also a lot of sightings in the Appalachian Mountains, up in New York, all the way down to Georgia. And it's not uncommon, even in recent years, to see Bigfoot in the Appalachian Mountains. So we're going to dive into that. This creature has a lot of different names. Sasquatch, wood booger, yeti is one that's more common in the Himalayas. And they have a variety of fur colors. Sometimes they have green eyes, sometimes they're said to have red eyes, and they emit a terrible scream. So I think that they probably don't like being around humans too much, I would assume, or I don't know what the scream means, but
I do that when I don't want to be around humans too, so.
That is true. You do make some weird noises, so that tracks. So the first case that we'll cover happened in Whitehall, New York, which is in upstate New York. And Whitehall is kind of an interesting place because they definitely embrace the Sasquatch sightings. They have an annual Sasquatch festival, and they also have multiple statues throughout their town of Sasquatch. So he definitely, or she, definitely brings some, prosperity to their region with all their different touristy things related to Sasquatch. But the reason that they dedicate a lot of that to Sasquatch is because there's a lot of documented cases up there. And I think one of the most compelling and also really credible happened in August 1976. So this would have been before cell phones, and most people don't have cameras at that time. But 3 teenagers reported seeing a strange creature in a field off a bare road. So Brian Goslin, not Ryan Gosling, just to be clear.
He's very popular right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know if popular is the right word. He's talked about a lot right now.
I'm confusing him with Ryan Reynolds. Never mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Ryan Reynolds is the one that's under some fire right now. They do look a lot alike, though. Yeah.
There's only one white male actor in Hollywood. They just, change their names every few years, I'm convinced.
They do look very similar. But Brian Goslin, who was a local police officer, responded to the call, and he also witnessed the creature off a bare road himself. Over the next several days, some of Goslin's fellow officers, his father, Wilfred, and his brother, Paul, all also saw this creature, and they couldn't come up with any other explanation of what it could be. There were giant tracks that they found on the river's edge near the field where it was initially spotted, and the collective description includes accounts of the animal standing 7 to 8 feet tall and weighing about 400 pounds. So that's not just an abnormally tall human, that's a very large bear-like creature, but they didn't think it was a bear just based on what they saw. Unfortunately, there are no photos from that time, but it sounds absolutely terrifying, and eventually it did just make its way back into the forest, and there were no other accounts of that creature again.
Now, you said that they have a festival every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I first moved, I live in Maryland now. When I first moved here, Lance and I went to this little restaurant, and we were talking to the owner, and she was like, yeah, I'm taking my husband, I'm assuming to there, for the Sasquatch convention. And I was like, that's so cool. I didn't know that existed. And they have a little Sasquatch painted on the side of their building.
Wow, they're believers.
Well, it has to be like the closest convention, I would think. Well, I guess Pennsylvania probably has a lot of sightings, I would think.
I don't know. I don't know if the Appalachian Mountains go through Pennsylvania, but it is a lot of like rural land, so could be. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same. I know there's a lot of different like conventions and meetings and festivals for Bigfoot just because it's one of those
Yeah.
things that people really hold on to and try to they really want to see one in real life. So yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get to go to one day.
Yeah.
There was another sighting in the Pine Pond area, which is also within that area, near the base of Ampersand Mountain in 1996. So that's about 20 years later. A group of friends were camping and just enjoying the area, and a couple of them decided to go kayaking and just hang out in the water. And they noticed that there was a strange shape on the edge of the woodline about 50 yards away. Alerting their friend, they both caught sight of the creature that looked very much like a black bear. So 7 to 8 feet tall, 400 pounds, that sounds like a black bear, right? Kind of similar size. They cautiously began rowing towards it, and as they got closer, they were more reassured that it was a bear. But then suddenly the creature rose on two legs and revealed a face that was a fleshy upper cheek area and piercing reflective eyes. This one was around 7 feet and had a dark brown coat. So the paddlers watched as the creature moved its head and made a strange gesture with its hands, which I would really like to know what that gesture is.
It was probably giving
And
them the
then,
finger in their own
yeah,
way.
yeah,
Like, leave me alone.
maybe, yeah. And it also tilted its head upwards like it was smelling something, kind of like a dog might do if it catches a whiff of something in the wind, which I thought was interesting. And then suddenly it heard like a snapping twig sound behind it, and it just dashed off into the forest. So maybe there is a predator. Maybe they have a predator that is bear,
Yeah.
a bear that was coming, and they didn't want to get into a fight in front of the humans.
Why? But you thought it was a bear. Why are you going closer to what you think is a bear?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess these were white people.
The caucasity of it.
Throwing that out there. It's a wild guess because bears can swim. So yeah, why? Even if it is a bear, there's no reason to get closer.
I'm trying to think of like what the adage is. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown,
Mm-hmm.
lay down. If it's
Mm-hmm.
white, say goodnight.
Yep.
So like no matter
Yeah.
what, you were doing the wrong thing. There's not a single bear where it's like go pet it.
Yeah. No, that doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast. Actually, the Office ladies, they're doing now that they've gone through the whole series, they're just randomly covering like different movies that they like.
It's cute.
And they were just talking about that because they're covering The Edge, which is a bear survival movie from the 90s. And they said exactly the same thing. Like, you really just need to stay away from it as much as possible. Unless it's literally attacking you, you have to do everything to just keep it away from you. But yeah, polar bear, you're not going to survive that.
Yeah.
So
Just
good
don't
luck.
get in the woods.
Well, I mean, I think you could be in the woods. Just be aware of your surroundings.
You will see, listeners, in the future, it will be a running theme where I say, just don't go in the woods.
Yeah,
Just
see,
don't do it.
I'm the total opposite. Like, I'll go into really remote areas by myself, and you just have to look. I'm more scared of mountain lions actually than bears.
That's fair.
Because mountain lions will watch you from the trees and then jump down and pounce on you. So,
You know who never has
uh,
to worry about that? Me, because I don't go in the woods.
I guess unless a mountain lion comes in, I mean, as their territories get smaller and smaller,
That's
they might
true.
start coming into your neighborhood. But I don't know if you have mountain lions in Maryland. That might be more of a West Coast thing. I'm not sure.
We barely have trees here. We're in like a sort of city.
Oh yeah, probably more coyotes then.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story. And this is a more recent sighting that happened in June 2021 near Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And this one's really interesting too. A family turned onto their street and saw an animal with fingers picking at something on the ground, which, what animals have fingers, really?
I thought it was like the big thing with humans is that we have like opposable thumbs.
Right.
So
Yeah. So yeah, because bears have paws, but I don't think their individual little claws can pick at stuff. We're going to learn a lot about animals, I think, during
yeah.
the course of this podcast. Yeah. Well, hopefully people will correct us. So yeah, other than apes or
It's
other
really like
kinds of
apes.
monkey or something, yeah. So as soon as their headlights hit the creature, it quickly averted them and ducked beneath them. So that's really interesting too, because they have like the intelligence to know that they don't want to be caught in the light. So upon turning to pull into their driveway, the passenger, I think it was like a husband was driving and the mom was in the passenger seat, and then they had a kid in the back seat. They saw the animal bound across their neighbor's yard. It did not run on 2 feet the way a human would. It was more like a gorilla because its movements were just so fast, but they were also extremely human-like. So it was they couldn't be clear or certain about what it was exactly. It bounded with its front legs in the same way that a gorilla would, except its arms were so long and it moved unbelievably fast. So I don't know how fast gorillas actually move, but from what I've seen, they seem pretty slow.
I feel like they're pretty fast.
I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on the situation. If they're just hanging out, they're probably walking a little slower.
But that's part of the reason, like, they call Sasquatch the missing link. Like, well, why does it have fingers? But why is it walking like this and look like this?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of terrifying. Because even if it is a gorilla, why is a gorilla in a random remote neighborhood in Tennessee? Like, it's not like they're indigenous to the area. So,
I mean, Tiger King was wild, and that was in the South, wasn't it?
yeah, wasn't that in Florida?
That would make sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Florida. Yeah, so that's a pretty far away from Tennessee. And yeah, it cleared the neighbor's yard within 6 seconds, like 300 feet within 6 seconds, and it just disappeared into the woods because they lived in a pretty remote area. So they waited in their car for a while to see if they should get out or, what they should do. And then eventually they went inside. Luckily, the kid didn't see it because I'm sure they would have been freaked out for the rest of its life.
I mean, depending on how old the kid was, they probably would be able to take like a video of it on their cell phone. Their kids nowadays are so desensitized to like, fear.
That's true.
They'd be like, this will make a dope snap story. Like, cat viral.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this was at night, so it kind of makes sense why they didn't get a video. I would assume that if something has dark fur, you're not going to be able to see it very clearly. Plus, they were scared, so,
of course.
You're not. I think if you're a certain age, like you were saying, you're more prone to just pick up your phone and start recording, even if you're freaking out. But I think if you're a little bit older, like mid-30s, that's not going to be your first thought. Your first thought is going to be safety. So, yeah, so that was an interesting one, too. And the last one we're going to talk about related to Bigfoot happened in November 2024. So that was just a few months ago at the time of recording this. And that was on Page Road in Buchanan County in Virginia, which is not too far from you.
Maybe like 2 hours. Isn't the next one you're going to do also near me?
Oh, yeah, that one is near me too.
They're just trying to find their leader.
There's a lot of spooky stuff happening on the East Coast. On the West Coast, too, actually. There's been a lot of, like, alien sightings and stuff on the West, or UFO sightings.
That makes sense.
So we'll probably do a podcast on that at some point, too. Oh, okay. Around 2 a.m., a local prison worker was on their way to work. So this was also in the middle of the night. About a quarter mile from an active coal mine, they saw what appeared to be a bear or a cow, just like a big
So a bear is a running theme here, because less than gorilla even, comparatively, it's always like, it looks like a bear.
The way that it's described, like it's tall, it's wide, it's got fur, so that makes sense, because, again, gorillas are not native to North America.
Yeah, it's not the first thing you would think of.
Yeah, so it would just be really unlikely, unless they escaped from a zoo or something, which, good for them, let them live, but... Yeah, so the person slowed down in case the animal got spooked and decided to run across the road, which does obviously happen, so that makes sense. And they realized that the shaggy-haired creature was actually kneeling on 2 legs and looked to be about 500 to 600 pounds. So that's huge.
Yeah. That's muscular. That's... If it's not wide, that's all muscle.
Yeah. And the kneeling part is what's interesting, because I've never seen videos of a bear kneeling. Maybe they do. But I feel like they have a longer torso and shorter legs from what I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly a bear would kneel.
Yeah, I don't know what their bone and joint structure is like.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, apparently skinned they look very human, so.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look up what a skinned bear looks like. I'll take your word for that.
No, I did. I feel like I need to explain that wasn't just on a whim. Our Oma once saw a skinned bear and it looked very human to her. And
Oh, you're right, right,
did you
yeah.
think I was just throwing out random knowledge of what a skinned bear looks like?
Well, I mean, that doesn't really explain anything because why did she see a skinned bear? So,
Because her neighbors were hunters.
oh, okay. So they were like eating the meat.
Yeah, and she wouldn't take the meat because she said it looked too human. Which is
That's
something
where she
coming
draws the
from
line.
her, because she eats eyeballs and brain.
Yeah,
Anyway.
fair enough. All right. And what was interesting about this encounter too is that the being acknowledged the driver by looking at it over its shoulder. And the driver saw that it had a human like face with a heavy brow, and then it got up and just climbed down out of sight. And there were many animals in the area, like deer and other like smaller game type animals. So the person believes that it was a creature that was watching game to try to probably hunt. So it makes sense. A lot of these are happening at night. So maybe they hunt at night. Maybe they mostly come out at night. Maybe that's why they have those glowing eyes so that their eyes are more adjusted to the dark and they're just trying to avoid humans as much as possible because they know that bad things happen when humans come around. So,
Well, and if they're
yeah.
like nocturnal, I mean, that would make so much sense.
Hmm. Yeah, because then we never really see them. And there is a Bigfoot website where you can see all these different reports that people send in. And then the person that runs it actually reaches out to them to vet them and kind of see if they're like
What a
kooky or
job.
yeah. So I don't know if he gets paid for it, but it sounds like a pretty cool hobby.
What a
So
job.
yeah, there's like hundreds of sightings on there from all over the country.
And you have to wonder, I know we talked about this before, just probably you and me, but how there's one theory that they live underground and that's why we're seeing them in so many different places because they live in like tunnels underground.
Hmm. Yeah, which is interesting too, because like missing 411, right? All those people that go missing in parks, and then that there's that whole tunnel system that runs under the United States. So maybe they wandered into Sasquatch territory, and they're like, "Well, we can't let you go because you're going to go tell everyone."
And they don't seem violent, they just seem annoyed. Like, could you just
Yeah,
leave me in peace?
they're just trying to avoid humans as much as possible. So fair enough. We should probably just leave them alone and stop trying to find them.
But then what are we going to play on the History Channel? History?
Yeah, God forbid.
Ridiculous.
Nobody wants that.
But another creature that just wants. Sorry, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry. Another creature that just wants to be left alone. It really is a theme with cryptids. Like, they really just seem to be leave me alone. This creature is called the Jersey Devil. So in the 1700s, a woman known as the Mother of Leeds was giving birth to her 13th child.
Oof.
13.
It's a lot of kids. Wow.
That is 13 too many. And I have one. Well, I didn't give birth to one, but like that one is enough.
Yeah, one seems like plenty.
But in her despair giving birth, it is rumored she exclaimed, "Let this child be the devil." Fair thing to say during your 13th childbirth.
Yeah.
Free epidural?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
A lot of women died back then too. I mean, the fact that she was able to do that 13 times and not die is kind of crazy.
Well, and if she had not said, "Let this child be the devil," I have to wonder if they would have assumed she was a witch because she had 13 children that
Mm.
lived. I guess they still could have assumed she was a witch because her 13th child was indeed the Jersey Devil. It is believed that he was born with a goat or horse's head, an elongated body, hooves, and a tail. So imagine saying like, "Oh, I hope this child is the devil," and then it actually is. Good, good, good. But at least that's like the most known story. There's a few others. One according to the Atlantic City of New Jersey's website, where a young Leeds woman fell in love with a British soldier. And this was very much treasonistic at the time
Mm.
because I don't know what this really means. He was there due to the iron furnaces at Bastow, they were supplying privateers after the Battle of Chestnut Neck. I don't know what it means, but it made the townsfolk very angry. And and they referred to the bastard child of the two as the Leeds Devil, which I could get if, it wasn't like a humanoid creature. Like, you just really hate this kid,
Mm-hmm.
ostracize them. Another one,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, it seems easier except for the fact that the kid has tails and hoofs and
Yeah, but I feel like back then they would just say stuff like that and then it would just spread, right? Because you don't even have to see it. Like, you could just hear, oh, did you hear that, Marianne or whatever? Like, she saw it and it had tails and hooves. I mean, it could also be someone that was disabled, and
yeah.
that's just how they're describing it. Like, if they have like a club foot or something like that. Some people are born with tails.
Another kind of an easy short one. A begging gypsy woman asked a woman for food. The woman said no. The gypsy cursed her. Years later, the young woman had long forgotten about the gypsy's curse. First baby comes out. It's the Jersey Devil.
They love to blame things on Romani people.
Yeah, and I don't know where it's appropriate to say gypsy or Romani, because I know in some places in North America there's like a distinction that one doesn't want to be called the other.
Oh, okay.
All most of my knowledge is from Gypsy Sisters, so I'm not going to go based off of that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
uh,
All I ever see on TikTok about them is how they clean, and their houses are so clean. It's amazing.
have you seen like the concoctions they make though to like keep it that clean? It's like they're making mustard bomb.
Oh, really? No, I
Yeah,
haven't
and
seen
mustard gas. It's like they're making mustard gas every time they clean.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
I mean, good for them. They've got the very ornate houses to keep clean, and they've got like 1,000
Mm-hmm.
children.
Yeah. Yeah. I need like a cleaning lesson from them. But they're on their hands and knees with just like a bowl of soap and water and like a rag, and everything gets cleaned like every single day. For some people that have allergies like us, that's like literally the dream. Like, you're not gonna have dust issues in that house.
I mean, I'm a housewife, and I lasted maybe 6 months trying to keep the house that clean before I had to accept that. Okay, but people have to live here too. Like, you can't all just look at it and go quietly into one room. The rest of the house is so clean. I mean, they also have a lot of female children who leave school at a very young age to learn how to do that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the Romani people, they're trained how to be housewives.
Which, like, if that's your thing, that's totally cool. Sort of my
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway. So, yeah, they love to blame gypsies on things like that. But it seemed wherever the Jersey Devil went, horror followed him. Every sighting included things like failed crops, droughts, death of livestock. Even similar to the Mothman, who we'll discuss later, he's been connected to the foreshadowing of disaster or war. But one thing that I really didn't find any genuine evidence about is the Jersey Devil actually hurting anybody.
Hmm.
He might have been foretelling about bad things that will hurt people, but there's no like, and he like bit this person's leg in 1752. So, the
Oh.
theory of a cursed child humanoid creature sounds a bit ridiculous, but there were many prominent members of society who claimed to have run ins. From cops to mailmen, there were many accounts of the creature, including Commodore Stephen Decatur. I want to keep calling it Decanter. Decatur is said to have been inspecting cannonballs, which really gives you a sign of the times. Just casually inspecting cannonballs. When he saw a winged creature in the sky, he shot at it, and nothing happened. Like, it didn't hit him, or he just flew away, but it seemed to have no effect on the creature itself. Another reliable source is actually Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, Joseph Bonaparte, who reported seeing him whilst he was hunting. That's pretty much all it was. He saw it when he was hunting. He came back and told everybody about it. I think in those days, especially what this was obviously related to prominent society, they did things like hunting parties
Hmm.
where they weren't really hunting. Like
Yeah.
like they might kind of herd in animals. I think they do this now with deer. Like you can go pay for a specific place where the deer are a lot easier to catch.
Oh, that's nice.
It's supposed to help with control of the population.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, growing up in upstate New York, so many car accidents are caused by deer running across the road. And they also have ticks on them. They spread ticks, which can, deer ticks can be really bad for humans and other animals.
I lived in Rochester a little longer than you did. I can't stand deer. They're cute from a distance, but when they start giving birth in your backyard, you're kind of over it at that point.
Oh. Yeah, I actually when I see them out here, I mean they obviously they have them out here. They're just not as many, but they seem more like magical when you see them out here because you just don't see as many of them.
Yeah, I mean, that was the same when I lived in Buffalo. It was like, oh my God, a squirrel, like a chipmunk, because I lived deep in the city. It was like, oh, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
so nice.
Yeah, wildlife.
But the story about Jersey Devil, there's a few more. There's ones talking about Captain Kidd and buried treasure. You see the Jersey Devil and it's near the treasure. The Jersey Devil is protecting the treasure. Don't,
Right.
that was a weird one.
Yeah.
And there's also stories of angry villagers finding the Jersey Devil and running him out of town Frankenstein style. Like
Mm,
pitchforks and torches blazing. But there's no pictures, there's no real proof. Except
yeah.
for maybe one thing I talk about later. Um, but for many years, the Jersey Devil haunted not only the state of New Jersey, but it seemed to have an angsty streak, abandoning its namesake and having sightings in areas as far as Delaware and
Hmm,
Maryland.
interesting.
You really can't escape this stuff. As many ideas as where the beast is, why it was made, where it came from. One of my favorites is that it is actually a prehistoric being from the Jurassic period
Hmm.
that somehow managed to survive, which I just
Hmm.
think is a fun thought. But
Yeah, I mean the Appalachian Mountains were part of Pangea, so who knows? There could be maybe that's why there's so many cryptids in the Appalachian Mountains.
maybe. I mean, there are a lot of, throughout history, we see a lot of comparisons to. I'm trying to think of what one of them was. When we talk about Mothman, probably in the next one, similar creatures were found in Ireland and I believe
Mhm.
even Hinduism.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's
there's always a lot
interesting.
of crossover.
Hmm.
But it got to the point where, at its peak, which I believe was in like the 1800s, it was so bad that the superintendent Robert Carson of Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward, which to this day would be about $350,000.
Wow.
The reward has never been claimed.
I mean, is it still valid? That'd be kind of cool.
I think if you found the Jersey Devil with evidence, you would the black men in suits, the black men in suits. The, why am I having such hard?
The men in black
The men in
suits.
black. I kept thinking of the movie The Men in Black, and I kept getting
Yeah.
distracted by that.
Hmm. Yeah, they would just take it from you and wipe your memory or lock you up somewhere or something.
Most recently, our boy has been seen in the 1980s by a group of friends who were out dirt biking when all of their bikes stalled at the same time and they heard an inhuman shriek. So, cryptids seem to make a lot of inhuman shrieks. I wonder if that's just their language and we don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we would expect other creatures to make human sounds, you know?
Yeah, that's fair, but like, think about it. I mean, I believe every cryptid we've talked about has made an inhuman shriek. What if they're all
Hmm.
just saying the same language in a different dialect? Like they're having a fun conversation about us, and we just don't know.
Maybe they're warning other creatures about us.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame them. When the group
Yeah.
finally returned to camp, one of them went to visit a local bar, and he's telling the bartender all about his experience. And the bartender was just like, yeah, you probably just ran into the Jersey Devil. Like,
Oh, sure.
unimpressed.
All right.
I mean, you gotta think, if that's near the area where, like, the myth started, they're probably so sick of hearing about it. Plus,
Yeah.
imagine the tips you would get if you were just like, yeah, dude, it's the Jersey Devil. Like, come on, let's talk about it.
Yeah. I probably get good tips after a sighting.
We both worked in the restaurant industry, if you can't tell. And the most recent occurrence was in October of 2015, where a man named David Black claims to have video proof of the Jersey Devil. And I've linked that video at the bottom of this. According to ABC News, Black said he saw what believed to be a llama.
Okay.
That's what gave me pause. Not the Jersey Devil. You thought the Jersey Devil and a llama would look similar.
Yeah, I guess just because of the hooves, I guess, and the tail.
Maybe. When he paused to take a picture of it, it sprouted wings and flew into the sky.
Sure.
Which,
As you do.
well, it just makes me laugh because I don't know if you've seen the sea horror movie Llamageddon.
No, I've
It's
not seen that.
it's so bad.
Llamageddon. Oh my God.
It's
No.
about alien llamas.
Wow. Yeah, I usually don't go that far into horror. I watch like a B horror movie. I don't know about like a C horror movie.
I was watching a YouTuber who did a review on it, and I was like, this sounds
Oh.
goofy. The llamas shoot laser out of their eyes. It's people really are great with creativity.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's unique. I've never heard of that before.
But who knows? Maybe that's what this guy actually saw, and it wasn't the Jersey Devil.
Sure. I mean, they both sound completely insane, but yeah. Yeah, it kind of seems like to me like it was a person who was born with like physical disabilities. Maybe he was like cast out of society and then he just became like a ghost that haunts the area.
Yeah.
Like residual haunting kind of thing.
Ooh, you're gonna get us talking
It's
about residual intelligent hauntings. We're gonna do one about that.
yeah, definitely. But that's kind of sad. I mean, the person was born with like maybe a club foot or club feet and a tail, I mean, after 13 kids, something could happen. Um, Especially if it's a small gene pool.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, if you look at higher society in like Europe around that time, even
Mm-hmm.
before that, they were just really picking cousins, like
Mm-hmm. Like first cousins, yeah.
like half brothers.
Yeah. So, yeah, that could be it. Or it could just be a random genetic mutation. You never know. Obviously, they didn't really know about that stuff back then. So,
And the only thing that I really, and I'd have to double check my notes, remember about the actual parents of the child is that the father was arguing with the church for some reason. So the only thing I could think of other than saying let this be the devil was he and the church were at odds, and I can't remember for what reason. Um,
hmm,
but that would kind of make sense if they're like, oh, 13th child, I'm mad at you, your kid's the devil.
that's true. That does sound like the church.
I just wonder if they ever had a 14th kid. I don't think they did.
Yeah. I mean, if the person was disabled, you probably would worry that it would happen again. It's not like you can do any kind of testing like you would be able to now.
Yeah. So, who
And
knows?
there was like a lot of stigma around that kind of stuff back then. So, I mean, there still is, but definitely more back then.
But hopefully, this was all just a made up tale and the kid was just normal and lived a happy life.
I know. I feel bad for the kid.
I know. I mean, I'd
That's
say
kind of
imagine
sad.
being born with that, your stigma, but my nickname was Demon Spawn, so.
Yeah, but that was just because of your attitude. So,
I was a toddler.
yeah, but it extended well past your toddler days.
I'm a peach.
Some children are just demon spawn. That's what we call Zeus too, because he's just like all over the place. Just he's just a wild card. Just never know.
Maybe he just needed Adderall too.
Oh, he needs something. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's gotten better in his old age. Little baby. Okay, and our last one that we're going to talk about today is one that I had never really heard of before, and I don't know if it's very common outside of the area of Maryland where it's said to take place, so maybe this will be a new one for everyone too, and that is called the Snallygaster. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not 100% sure. So it was originally referred to as the Schnellergeist, which means quick ghost in German. And this is a bird reptile chimera that has been spoken of by German immigrants since the early 1800s. A large group of, I guess, German settlers made their way to Frederick County, Maryland, and this is where this all kind of takes place. So Frederick County is right on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland, pretty close to Gettysburg.
My favorite place.
Yeah, so I'm sure you drive through there a lot and don't even know.
Yeah, I think they're actually having a paranormal circus there in a few months.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. See if I can convince Lance to take me.
Paranormal circus. That sounds kind of scary. I don't know. Be careful. That sounds like a Hell House LLC kind of thing.
Don't get me started.
Have you seen all of them?
No, but I saw the house October built, and that was plenty.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I was talking to my therapist about going to a haunted house, and she said something. She's like, I had to remind myself that, like, they're not going to take me. And I was like, sweetie, there's a whole subgenre of horror about that. Like, I don't have the heart to tell you, but...
Yeah. Have you seen the second one, though?
No, I watched The House October Built, and I was like, I really like haunted houses.
Okay, you have to watch the second one because it gives it so much context. It's not even... You literally have to watch the second one to know the whole story.
Before it was even a horror genre, my biggest fear when we were little going through haunted houses was that, like, one of the girls in a cage was actually kidnapped and everyone's just, like, laughing and walking away from her, and I was so sad.
Yeah, there's a bunch of movies like that. Like Haunt, that's another one that's like that. Hell House LLC is different. But the most recent one, some of them were carnival workers. Carmichael Manor, I think it's called. That's like that's a whole 4-movie series, so.
I mean, carnival workers, though, that's like a whole thing. There's a children's movie I watched recently, or around Halloween. It was one of the books that we used to read, but it was about, like, a haunted carnival or whatever. One of my favorite bands their two most famous songs were about, like, a possessed carnival.
Yeah, so I think just, stay away from carnivals is probably the moral of that story.
Okay, I'll stay away from carnivals when you stay away from the woods.
Okay, yeah, well, good luck.
Technically, humans are scarier.
I was going to say, I would trust the woods over a carnival any day.
Hey, pick the bear any day of the week.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Anyway,
you should definitely watch Hell House LLC. All of them are on Shudder. You have Shudder, right?
Yeah, I think I still have your login.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're all on there. There's 4 movies. That'll take up, probably 8 hours of your life. So
I'll save that for the next time Lance is out of town, so I can appropriately cry in the dark.
Yeah, it's good. It actually is kind of scary. That's my plug for Hell House LLC. I just watched
Not the first sponsored.
One again. They're so good. Anyway, back to the Snallygaster. So the earliest tales of the Snallygaster painted quite a terrifying picture. So they say it's a mix of a half bird, half demon, with features out of a nightmare. So descriptions tell of a reptilian winged beast with a metallic beak lined with razor sharp teeth. Interesting. Sometimes even sporting octopus-like tentacles.
That's what caught me there.
Yeah, so drawing from a lot of different things. I don't know where the tentacles are coming from, because then if it's like part, fish, doesn't it have to be in the water? I don't know.
What year did you say that was first started?
It was in like the early 1800s when a bunch of German immigrants came over to Maryland.
Okay, so they would have come over like on the boat.
On a boat, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to picture the line. I'm like, Ocean City is all the way that way. If they were like second or third generation, when would they even seen octopi? Octopi, yeah.
I don't know. And it's people have kind of, I'm sure, added on to it over the years, I assume. So, we'll see what happens with that. So the creature was said to swoop down without a sound, which is also really scary, snatching unsuspecting victims and, according to some of the oldest legends, draining them of their blood. So they are also vampires.
Love that.
I
That's
guess.
not that far off though, with older versions of vampires that they had bird and even sometimes reptile like octopi tentacles. No. But
Interesting. Yeah, well, maybe that's where it came from. So, yeah, so obviously the fear of this creature ran really deep. And the locals would paint 7-pointed stars on their barns, which was supposed to keep the beast at bay. And you can actually see that sometimes still today on barns. You'll see like a 7-pointed star. So that's kind of cool that it, I guess, made it through all those centuries. As the century progressed, though, the stories of the winged beast kind of died down until, horrifyingly, in the later 19th century, the legend was resurrected to frighten freed slaves. So, yeah.
Gotta ruin everything. We really do.
It seems like it's just, yeah, like they're like, oh, let's just scare the hell out of these people after they've been through, terrible, horrible things. Yeah. So, and then it kind of died down again. So it almost seems like it was a mechanism for scaring people, and maybe first it was to scare children or something, that had just come over from Germany, like, don't go into the woods because the Schnellergeist will get you. And then it was, stay out of our woods because the Schnellergeist will get you. And then in the winter of 1909, the newspapers were buzzing with wild reports of a monstrous creature terrorizing the region. Witnesses described the beast with massive wings, a long pointed beak, steel-like claws, and a single glaring eye. So not the Cyclops.
You know, he can fit a
Really
lot of
evolving.
hats. Like, he can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah. Its eerie screeches were said to sound like a locomotive whistle, which is kind of interesting because before they said that it was silent. So this almost seems like a different creature, but they immediately said that it was a Snallygaster again. The sightings gained so much attention that even the Smithsonian Institution offered a reward for its hide, and rumors swirled that President Theodore Roosevelt himself considered postponing an African trip to hunt the beast instead, because, he would go to Africa a lot. He was into, like, big game hunting. But as the frenzy grew, eventually the truth came out that these reports were all a hoax. So, the Middletown Valley Register editor George C. Roderick and reporter Ralph S. Wolfe had cooked up the whole story just to boost their readership. Which, they still do that now, right? Like the National Enquirer and
Oh, yeah.
pretty much any, news outlet has some kind of salacious headlines. So the descriptions pulled from old German folklore about dragon-like creatures that snatch children and livestock, and they even borrowed elements from the Jersey Devil sightings. So they're just kind of pulling in all these different things, and it's interesting that there was German folklore about a dragon-like creature that snatched children and livestock. So obviously they brought that over with them when they came here, and that's probably where this whole thing started.
I'm just trying to think, were they trying to connect, like, Krampus in there? I mean, he doesn't have, like, reptilian, though. He's got cloven hooves.
No, yeah, I don't think it was Krampus. I think they were just kind of throwing all these different
Seeing what will
animals
stick.
together. Just what sounded the scariest, I guess. I don't know. So even though they had admitted that it was a hoax, people still believe in the legend today. And maybe that sighting was a hoax, but earlier ones they believed were real. It's really hard to say. Like, I'm definitely getting the sense that there was like big birds flying around back then, and like people were just attributing it to all these different things, but maybe it was just like big birds. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like something flying that they couldn't identify. So yeah, that's all I got on this the Schnellergeist.
The Schnellergeist is just the friends we made along the way. It's whatever we want it to be.
Yeah. So yeah, if you see something flying, that's probably what you would attribute it to.
Well, nowadays we attribute it to a UFO.
Mm-hmm. Or a drone or some kind of weird balloon.
Or what was it? That kid in a hot air balloon for a while?
Oh, no, I didn't know about that. A hot air balloon?
It was something like that. It was like 15 years ago. But a kid ended up like, it's either a hot air balloon or tornado watching balloon, something. He ended up being in the attic the entire time, but the whole nation paused for like a good day,
Oh.
thinking there's just this kid floating in the sky.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's usually the simplest explanation is usually what it is,
Yeah.
but people like to get crazy, so gives them something to talk about. But yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think we'll have another cryptid one coming out soon. And if anybody has one that they particularly want us to look into, let us know.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Mothman. We're going to talk about the Fae, which is something that I think about a lot since I do go hiking a lot. Yeah. So yeah, like she said, if there's anything else that you're super interested in, or maybe one that's a little bit lesser known, we would love to hear about it. So just leave us a comment or send us an email. And if you have any stories that you want us to share, ghost related or cryptid related or UFO related, anything like that, you can send us an anonymous message, or you can add your name if you want, on our website, strangesisterspod.com, and we'll definitely read it in a future episode. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed our first video podcast.
And remember,
I
you have
will,
to be nice to us because it's our first one.
yeah, and I'll try to figure out what's going on with my eye, so I'm not rubbing it the whole time next time. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Stay strange.
Bye.